Hi guys, today I'm going to be starting my cool weather spring vegetable seeds. I've actually been growing them for a few weeks and this is what they look like right now, but we're going to go back to the beginning so that you can see how we got here step by step. First, I want to talk to you about what vegetables you can grow right now during the cooler months of springtime. And all of these vegetables can also be grown in the fall and possibly wintertime depending on where you live. All of these vegetables can tolerate frost. You can direct sow a lot of this outdoors 4 to 8 weeks before your area is completely frost free. And I start some of this stuff under my grow lights up to 12 weeks before the beginning of May, which is when my frost free season starts. And these vegetables don't just tolerate cool weather, they actually prefer it. Lettuce, spinach, broccoli, and among other things are going to bolt and go to seed once the hot weather comes. There's one thing I'm planting today that does well in hot weather, and that's Swiss chard, but it also thrives in cool weather. I even had some Swiss chard plants survive the winter this year here. We did have a bit more of a mild winter than usual. I'm not starting all of these seeds indoors under my grow lights. I prefer to direct sow seeds for most root crops directly in the garden. You can start them indoors if you want to. I'm not going to tell you not to. There's nothing wrong with experimenting, but I personally find it much easier just to plant those root crop seeds directly in the garden. Spinach, lettuce, peas, and chard can go either way. Direct sow the seeds in the ground or start them indoors. Both have worked well for me, although I do think spinach actually does a little bit better when you direct sow it outside. You can start it indoors though. Now let's get on with the seed starting. In this video, I'm just starting seeds that are going to be going under my grow lights. I'm using Jiffy seed starting mix. It's a dry mix and you really should get it wet before you plant your seeds. The main ingredients in this mix is peat moss, and peat moss kind of repels water at first, and it needs some time to soak up the water before you plant your seeds in it. Usually I pre-moisten the soil with water in a plastic dish pan, but I currently need to buy a new one of those. It really makes it a lot easier to moisten the soil before you put it into the seed cells. I'm going to put up some footage from a previous year on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. You want your soil moist but not sopping wet. You should be able to squeeze a little bit of water out of it, but only a little bit. Once I have the cells all filled up with my seed starting mix, I push the soil down into the cells a bit. And now I'm adding some water. If you pre-moisten your soil, you won't have to add extra water. I'm going to let that soak in for a few minutes, and while we're waiting, I'm going to start getting my peat pellets ready. I really love peat pellets for fast-growing crops like lettuce. Lettuce is only going to be in my house for 2 or 3 weeks, so their roots don't need a lot of room. These are little small peat pellets. They do make larger ones, although I haven't used them. Now I'm just going to top off this tray with a little bit more soil and water, and then I'm going to be ready to plant my seeds. And if you do it this way, be sure to drain off any excess water from the seed tray and drain away any excess water that's left over in your peat pellet tray as well. When planting lettuce seeds, I just surface sow the seeds and I don't bury them because lettuce seeds do like light to germinate. It actually helps them germinate. Some of my lettuce seeds are getting kind of old, 2 to 3 years old, so I am going to overseed some of these cells in hopes that some of these might actually germinate. There are a lot of different seeds that can keep and are viable for several years or so, but lettuce is not one of them. I find that after a couple of years, the germination rate is just really, really poor on lettuce seeds. So if you have old lettuce seeds, you might want to oversow them a bit. With the broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage, I just poke a little hole in the soil and put the seeds in. I like to plant 2 or 3 in each cell, and then I can thin it out later. If seeds don't germinate in one of the cells, then I'll be able to pull one of the extra plants from the cells that they both germinated in and fill up that empty cell. I don't like to see empty cells on my seed tray. With the Swiss chard, the seeds are kind of big and you do want to bury those. The cool thing about Swiss chard seeds and beet seeds is when you plant one little seed, a few little plant embryos are alive inside of each one of these seeds. So when you plant one seed, you'll get a few plants that pop up. A spray bottle works really well for watering little seeds If you don't have a spray bottle, you can also put a hole in the cap of a water bottle, and when you water your seedlings, the water flows out very gently and doesn't disturb the seeds. It is important when you start your seeds to keep the soil lightly moistened at all times. You don't want to let your seed tray dry out at all at this point. But again, you also do not want your soil mix soaking wet, because if it is, you're going to have all kinds of problems. Possibly dampening off, which is a disease that your little seedlings can get. It will attract fungus gnats. It's just not worth it. So just be really careful with the watering. I know a lot of gardeners, like especially new gardeners, maybe love their plants a little bit too hard. Don't go overboard with the water, but keep it consistently moist, not sopping wet. Now I'm putting these under my grow lights. It is important to put your grow lights down closer to your plants. If you can't raise or lower your grow light, you can also elevate your plant tray. Just get it closer to the lights, stack it on books. It looks like my grow lights are maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches from the soil. I wouldn't put this tray any further away from the grow light than this. You could even go a little bit closer if you wanted to. If your grow light is too far above your little plants, when they sprout, they'll get really skinny, tall stems, and the plants will just suffer. It's been a couple of weeks and my seeds have germinated. I've thinned a few things out already, like this lettuce. There was a couple coming up in each cell. I did have a couple of empty lettuce cells because the seeds did not germinate. They were too old. I replanted one of those with some fresh seeds, and this is what I have right now. The broccoli is doing good. Here's some more broccoli. And here's some broccoli that I planted a little bit later. It's a younger stage than this broccoli. Cabbage looks pretty good. The only thing with the cabbage is I do have an empty cell. I don't like to see empty cells, so I'm just gonna make a little hole right there, and then I'm gonna scoop out this little cabbage right here, since there's 2 growing in here. I'm using a pair of scissors, just something really small to scoop it out. Popping it down in the hole and give it a little bit of water so that the roots settle. Same with this side, since I may have disturbed the roots of this cabbage. I'm thinning out this broccoli because I don't want 2 broccoli plants in each cell. I want to give just 1 broccoli all the room it needs in each cell. I'm just choosing the ones that I think look the best. And it doesn't really mean they're better plants, it just probably just one came up before the other. And then I'm gonna water these. When your plants are at this stage of growth, you can start letting the soil dry out between waterings just a little bit. At this point, these plants are starting to get some okay root systems. The roots are reaching down into the cell, and you don't have to worry about it drying out as much as you do when your plants are at this stage. At this stage, the roots are still shallow, so I make sure to keep the soil moistened like this. And this is really just about how I water them. You don't have to go overboard with it. You just want the top of the soil to be moist. At this stage, the roots go down deeper, so just give it a little bit better of a watering than you do in the earlier phase of growth. Here's the little lettuce peat pots. They look pretty good. These are a long further than these. These are some lettuce seeds that I started a little bit later, and they still need thinned out. I'll just wait a little while till they're a little bigger to thin them out. It's currently early March here, and the broccoli, the cauliflower, the cabbage is going to be in my house for a couple more weeks at least. But I am going to start planting out some of this lettuce. It's probably later on this week. My forecast is looking pretty good. Most of the days this week are into the 50s, and there's one day that's 45 degrees. It's not going to hurt these cold hardy crops. The smaller lettuce I'll leave inside a little bit longer, but this needs to go out. I'll probably plant out my Swiss chard. It is really important to harden off your plants before you plant them in the ground outside. When your plants are inside under your grow lights, they're really getting babied. They're not exposed to sunlight. Sunlight is way brighter than your grow lights. Exposing them to sunlight way too quickly could result in your leaves getting burned by the sun. The way that I like to harden my plants off is to take them outside for an hour or two the first day. 2 hours if it's super cloudy outside, like there's no sunlight coming through the clouds at all. You can get away with leaving them outside for a couple hours the first day. If it is sunny outside on the day that I start hardening off plants, I put them in an area somewhere that is completely and 100% shade, down at the base of a tree or under an awning or overhang, something like that could work. The next day, I will leave my plants out a little bit longer, and then the next day a little bit longer, and so on and so forth. Hardening off your plants can take from a week to 10 days. Sometimes you can get it done sooner, especially if it's cloudy every single day for a few days, and that is the case a lot where I live this time of year. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to say, but I don't think that there is. I hope that there was some helpful information in the video. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Subscribe to my channel if you want to follow along and watch me grow these plants out. I also grow a lot of stuff in the summertime. All right, thanks guys, bye.